What is going on, everybody? We are back once again with another edition of Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast. It is a Thursday, April the 18th, a throwback Thursday, and you all know what that means. We've got the throwback crew here. We've got that throwback topic we promised you last week, but we had too much fun last week breaking down the footage, so we didn't get to it. Well, you're going to get it today. I'm as excited as anyone. I've got the wickedest crew in the game riding with me today. First and foremost, send this one out to Philadelphia. Head of Opinions, Anthony Ricciardi. What is going on this Thursday afternoon for you, my friend?
I'm doing all right. Not too bad. Post-Mania. We had so much fun last week. Sorry for everybody that the throwback got delayed, but I think you guys were all right with it anyway. Yeah. So let's get on with it.
Absolutely. I'm excited to get into it for sure, but we also have a huge return, and I'm super stoked because I think this is the last time I'm going to announce Shoddy's return this week to the show. I had him return to the daily on Sunday, basically return once again to off the air on Tuesday, and once again back on Throwback Thursday from the DMV. The Tuesday night delight himself. Shoddy is in the building. What's good, my friend?
I'm not going to do that. Finally, the Ark has... No, I ain't going to do it. I'm good over here. Finally, the Ark has come back to Throwback Thursdays. Man, I've missed. This is the ultimate return for me because it's been 2 weeks since I've been on Throwback Thursday, talking Throwback with you guys and breaking down AEW. So, I'm excited to be there. Before we start, man, I just want to do this out of my own heart. I definitely want to give a shout out and well, not even a shout out, but I want to give my prayers and rest in peace to my brother Hank Diggs. He was a battle rapper from the DMV from my league Showtime Battle Arena, part of my team. He passed away unfortunately yesterday, so I definitely want to give my condolences and prayers to his family. We're living on his legacy, and I'm gonna kill this podcast for you today, brother. Love you, man.
Oh, yes, absolutely, dude. That monster shout out, prayers up. Love you too, Shad, right? No, all day long. Let's go. This show's going to be a blast. And speaking of a blast, numero one Superfly with Hello. Excited to watch both AEW's Dynasty and TNA's Rebellion this weekend. How good of a time is it to be a wrestling fan? How about a combat sports fan? We got 3 weeks in a row, Mania, UFC 300, boom, TNA, and AEW Dynamite.
The Rebellion card is the one in Vegas, right?
Yes.
That
card looks epic, man. That card looks really good.
Gonna be wild for sure. And then David Modge, friend of the show, in the comments, loving it. He's got his twos up, and for Shoddy's return on Throwback Thursday. And then Andy Yen, new friend of the show, added AEW, another great pay-per-view again. Dude, this card is stacked, and we're gonna get into last night's Dynamite.
What did you call him? Andy what?
When?
Oh, okay, right? My bad. I thought you said I heard wrong. I thought you said Andy End.
No. Went, right? Isn't that how you pronounce it? I think.
Yeah, you got it right.
It's like Dat Wen, the old linebacker from. I learned that from the old linebacker from the
Cowboys.
From the Cowboys.
Yeah,
that's the only reason I know how to pronounce it.
No, I got you. No, there's a lot of people with that last name around my area, so
100%.
For sure.
It's a great last name, by the way. While we're on the topic, but in all seriousness, let's get into AEW Dynamite because it was, for me, I think it's one of their best go-home shows before a pay-per-view in a while. And there's been a lot of criticism, obviously. We saw last Thursday's show, or some of us did, discussing the footage and all of that. This was really, really solid for a response, I think. And that, to me, is important. A response to quite a bit of negativity. It felt put behind us last night. And especially Swerve and Joe. Swerve and Joe delivered multiple segments. And that's hard to do. Multiple segments in one night. I mean, and also finishing the show, which I thought was really cool. I thought the main event being Ospreay and Claudio was outstanding. I thought the show was over as soon as that match ended, and then looked up at the time, and that was really interesting to me. That was a nice. Let's really take this home to the pay-per-view moment, and I dug that. I hope we actually see neither one on Collision this Saturday. Anthony, I got to get your thoughts though on the whole thing, and most importantly of all, can Swerve get the job done and beat Samoa Joe this Sunday for the AEW World Championship?
I think the problem that AEW has with Dynasty is solid card, horrible build for the most part. For the most of the card, it's pretty bad of a build. Swerve and Joe is probably the most solid of them, especially because there's history there, because they've faced each other before. I go back and forth with this because personally, I think Swerve deserves it. But at the same point, I don't know if they're going to pull the trigger. I don't know if they're going to deny him one more time and go to Double or Nothing in, I guess, Vegas again. I think that's where they're going to be, right? Or did they say somewhere else? I don't remember. But
I'm not 100% sure off the top of my head.
Vegas. But that's the thing. Like, I don't know if they're going to hold this up for their tentpole one, which is Double or Nothing, or they'll do it at Dynasty. I have a feeling they're going to do a Swerve, like, as much, and no pun intended, but I think there's going to be a Swerve. Like, I think he deserves it. I just think they're going to deny him to Double or Nothing. If they do pull the trigger, they may want to do it to try to counteract the positiveness that WWE got for Cody at Mania, maybe to counteract it, maybe. But part of me thinks they may go to Double or Nothing. I don't know why.
I do hear where that's coming from. Shoddy, you're back.
Sorry, guys, technical difficulties.
Apology accepted. It was totally unnecessary. You're good to go. Tink 2254 added, "Hey guys, what's going on, man? Thank you for joining the show once again." We've got a couple. David Modge still laughing, which I love, and then Matt Williams with "Whose house?"
Run's house.
That's pretty funny. I wonder how big the pay-per-view arena crowd will be. I think it'll be big enough.
I'm mad no one. I'm glad that he realized that reference that he does from Reverend Run.
It's straight Rev Run. I love it. I gotta say though, I think Swerve goes over this weekend. I truly do. That's my pick. I think it's time. Strike while the iron's hot. Make it happen. We don't have to compare it to Cody. It's not the same thing.
No, I think he should win, but I don't know if they're going to pull the trigger or they'll wait for Double or Nothing. That's the part I don't know.
Double or Nothing, the name implies. So that one's interesting there too. But Shad, I got to get your pick here. Whose house? Maybe not Run's house. Maybe Swerve's house at Dynasty this weekend, right?
Yeah. Man, this is tricky because it feels like the build of it hasn't had a lot of implications where it may be a situation where Swerve does go over. It may be a situation where they may have some more meat on the bone where they can prolong it, especially with Double or Nothing being not too far away with other pay-per-views after that. But it kind of needs to be Swerve this weekend, in my opinion. I'll tell you why. I don't know how long you can kick the can with this feud to have the fans' attention. You know, we had the triple threat match. We had Samoa Joe go over, tied to Hangman Adam Page, Hangman being the fall guy. But everybody wanted Swerve to kind of win that match, right? Everybody is waiting for this big moment for AEW to have Swerve as the world champion. And I think it's just one of those situations where Swerve is so undeniable as a wrestling superstar right now. It would feel just like malpractice to not have him as champion. I don't think there's a guy on that roster who is more over than him at this current juncture of AEW. He's got the star power. He's an incredible storyteller. He's an incredible professional wrestler. He can cut an amazing promo. This is the time to kind of allow him to be the man that runs the show for AEW because I think he can handle that weight on his shoulder. and I think he's a person that can bring, a different element, a different mainstream audience to him, just because he's just really cool and he's got a lot of mainstream factors to it. So if I'm AEW, I'm striking while the iron's hot. But I don't like part of what Anthony is saying. I can kind of see that potentially happening too, just because the booking hasn't showed me that this is kind of like the end all be all. Like with Cody and Mania, and I don't want to compare it to that because they're completely different storylines, but we kind of knew that was the end all be all. This, it kind of feels like Cody last year at Mania, where they may just be like, you got to be quicker than that. We gonna still continue this story, and I would rather them to kind of just like last year, strike while the iron's hot. So we'll see what happens. I mean, I'm not mad either way, but I'm gonna say my man Swerve gets his moment because he deserves it. And the only other thing is that it being Dynasty, maybe MJF comes back. I don't know. Maybe this is his moment because it has like the name tied to him. But I'm gonna go ahead and just say that's just a cool name, and Swerve gets his moment.
I think for sure, and I think one thing we can all agree on is Swerve's ascent is unbelievable. What he's done since he signed with AEW is undeniable. It is out. The work has been incredible, and he's proven it. And I think this weekend, there's never a better time than any to turn could to did, and that for Swerve is the move.
Mm-hmm.
Turn it into like he did it. Like that's what this weekend's about, because he's earned it. He's earned that. He's earned that right.
The one problem that anybody has, whether it's WWE with Cody or AEW with Swerve, everyone wants him as the champion. You got to have people lined up to make the championship run matter and then have most impact. So the question is, who are you putting him up against when he wins? Are you bringing Hangman back? Are you bringing that? Are you bringing MJF? Or are you going to continue with Joe and Joe's chasing Swerve? You have to have this in place before you pull the trigger. That's all I'm saying.
I totally agree with that. I think Hangman's the logical.
Solid point.
Hangman is the logical first feud. I think if he beats Joe, the rivalry's over. Mm-hmm. And I think that's, to your point, about potentially going to Double or Nothing. The only maybe stone that you could leave left unturned in that situation.
The only problem is the name of the pay-per-view, because everyone insists it's tied to MJF, and that's the only lingering thing there.
Now, by the way, I would 1,000,000 times, as much as Joe Max would be great, rather see Max and Swerve on the microphone against. That is.
I understand that.
That is.
Then you have Max in this waiting pattern for Adam Cole, feuding with Joe. Again, he's feuding with too many people, and he don't even have the belt at that point. So it's. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't. Cole thing happens over the belt. I think Adam Cole's got to overcome Max.
I don't know. I think
Max and Adam both got to get healthy first. That's the first thing.
Here's the thing. Adam's lost a lot of momentum that he had. Like, really. Like,
he's hurt.
No. But even before that,
he's not on television.
His run in AEW as a whole has been lackluster at best. It has not been a good run.
Well, I would strongly
year one. I think year one his run was very good. I mean, after the injury is kind of when it. And that, like, to Clark's point, it is kind of a case where it's like, if you're on the shelf, what can you really do?
Yeah.
But the thing is this, though, I'll question that portion of it, though, because they've had him on TV after that, and what he's done on television hasn't really been
the whole Devil storyline was a dud.
It hasn't. And then this whole faction with the
Undisputed Kingdom, it's horrible.
But he's not there to run it. And
but, even when he was there calling the shots, it hasn't been good.
But he's injured. We know he's injured.
But you could still entertain the audience. It has not been
Like,
entertaining
if
at all.
Roman Reigns is out there in a walking boot. It doesn't quite land as much as the tribal chief or the head of the
There's a difference in a performer versus Roman versus Adam.
Oh, completely. They're different people. But my point is, as far as leading a faction, if he's out
then
there,
they shouldn't have pulled the trigger of the devil reveal then while he was injured. He was injured before they revealed it.
So they should have audibled and made it someone else, or
you could have continued on with somebody else in the mask to take MJF out and then reveal it afterwards. That's what you could have done. You didn't have to reveal it when you did.
But Max was going to
have been Britt Baker.
Be off TV too.
Yeah, and what's position are you in now?
Well, Max's return is going to be gigantic.
If Adam Cole, so this is the thing though too. Do you think him returning this weekend is the right call for it to be this weekend?
It would overshadow Swerve if he won.
I don't think it matters. I think
if he returns this weekend, I would have a problem with Swerve winning the title this weekend, to Anthony's point, because I think it does overshadow what should be a night for him. It becomes a night for MJF's return.
But I don't think he returns.
And then if MJF helps Swerve win and cost Joe, that may hurt the overall Swerve momentum.
See, I don't think that's how Max returns. I think
where else would you put him then?
I think the Max return is probably during something to do with Roddy and that group and everything, and then we get him to Swerve between now and Double or Nothing, or beyond that. I don't think it's immediately on Swerve. I don't think it's the same. They're not going to pull the same trick that they pulled with, CM Punk wins the title in his hometown. Swerve's not in his hometown this weekend, but right, CM Punk wins the title in his hometown, and then Max is the big return, the big announcement.
Isn't that
just to finish the show? I don't think Max finishes the show as a return.
Hasn't AEW done that multiple times though?
Sure, but I would imagine in this scenario he returns at a different stage of the show. I would guess.
But the thing is that becomes what is the highlight of the end of the pay-per-view is that MJF returns. It should be the highlight of the payper-view is that we have a new champion. We have a champion who's broken. The thing is this, this is monumental for AEW. And honestly, bro, that aside, he is a person that deserves that moment, just how much work he's put in for this company. It's not easy to get that over with the crowd. You have to be that freaking good.
Yeah.
And have to put that much work. I think he deserves his own standing ovation and moment. I would have a problem if he won and Max returned the same night. Personally, that's how I view it.
If they book it so that they're in the same spot,
where Max the headline
interrupts and all that. But I think it's two moments, right? Like nobody was out there in 21 going like, well, I can't believe they had Danielson overshadow Cole. Like, that's not what it was.
That's a little different.
It is different, but my point is,
because
there's a way to have more than one big moment on a card, and not have you walk out of there only thinking about one of the two.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. Danielson did kind of overshadow Cole's return.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of
though, because I bought the Cole t-shirt on the way out, not the Danielson one.
Oh yeah, because you're a Cole fan. But regardless, everyone left that night like, holy bleep, we got Daniel Bryan came to AEW.
Listen, All Out 22, MJF returns.
Right.
What do people remember? The Punk press conference. Things can get overshadowed very easily.
Yeah. No. I mean, definitely. In some ways, we do have to move on, though. Let's talk about Jon Moxley's promo from last night. He's the new IWGP World Champion, and that is huge. This is not like something to be taken lightly. It's interesting because I believe, Shad, you and I were on the same show where we picked the potential winner of this match, and I was like hesitant to pick Moxley, but he gets it done in my hometown, Chicago, which is absolutely wild to me. I think this is really cool. I had a really great discussion on yesterday's daily about this with Ben, talking about, does this hurt the relationship between New Japan and AEW? I'm like, no, if anything, it bolsters it. Because he's going to go defend that title over in New Japan. And Jon Moxley's a star. It's that simple. He's as believable as anybody on the microphone. You see the look, you see all of it, the eye contact, everything that he does. I really, really, really think in some weird ways he's underrated. I think Jon Moxley is underrated from time to time because of how interesting his career has been as far as ebbs and flows since going from WWE and being Dean Ambrose and then becoming Jon Moxley. I think that's part of it, but I do believe he's underrated. I loved this promo. It was tough as nails. It was Jon Moxley, leather jacket, totally the guy you don't want to mess with at a bar. And I dug it, but I do, Anthony, head of opinions. I got to get your thoughts on it too.
All right, I'll make this a little quick. As a whole, this was a promo to promote Moxley as this guy that was always been doubted, and he overachieved. He's the first guy to hold the WWE, AEW, and New Japan world titles, and that whole thing. The whole relationship with New Japan, personally, I think any of these promotions that have been tied to AEW's benefited more than the other promotions. We saw Omega hold the US title. It went nowhere as a whole. I don't know if this is going to go anywhere either. I thought it was a nice promo from Moxley, but other than that, it was what it was. I wasn't blown away with this promo as a whole. I thought it was a good promo for him, promoting him, but other than that, nah, that's about it.
For sure. Interestingly, something though that I would ask is, it is weird because we so often talk about how Tony Khan is a bad business guy and all of that. That's a lot of conjecture on the internet about that. And if your promotion is benefiting in every business relationship as far as company to company,
you're what I'm saying is AEW's benefit. It hasn't been mutually beneficial. I don't feel
right, which is totally fair. But wouldn't that then contradict the idea that Tony Khan doesn't know what he's doing?
No, I don't think it does.
Okay.
Because a partnership should be mutually beneficial, not just for you. And as a whole, I don't think it really benefited them as a whole. Them holding New Japan titles in a company that has like 20 other titles is meaningless. You have too many titles on your program already, so let's add another.
Well, let's not divert from the.
I know, but you asked, I'm answering.
No, I hear you. Just it's one of those things where it's hard to play both sides of the coin on that one, just because you can't really be. I mean, I hate absolutes, but you can't really be both. It's like either he's good or he's bad, and like if you're being the one that's benefiting in positive business relationships, that's good business. Is in general, that's a hard one to deny. But speaking of good business, if you don't know where to find Wrestling Republic content, Next Level, the app, they're the best. Great business, great place to go, all in one place, super convenient, sweetest giveaways in the world. We've got another one still available. 2 copies, WWE 2K24, the WrestleMania edition, no less, $100 retail, not 1 but 2 copies. So enter that one. You totally can win. Go to NXConnect.me. That's / Wrestling Republic to see all of our content, all platforms linked in one place. It's a great place to go, and it's free. There's no gimmicks here. There's no issues. You just sign up. Not only that, the wrestling community that they've developed on this platform is amazing. So many great creators. Wrestling Republic's over there. We've got all kinds of awesome content creators and all kinds of awesome wrestling content for you. Great place to go. So go check that out. And it's free to download, like I said, and free to sign up. Absolutely. And monster shout out to my good friends, Jason and Matt. They're the best. But let's absolutely get into our next topic, which is one that's fun for me. We've got Adam Copeland, the artist formerly known as Edge, and Willow Nightingale tagging together. They do the classic Willow pre-match gets hurt. So Edge goes out there and stands on business by himself to start the match. Brody King, monster shout out the Santino bros up in LA, trained there. Brody King's the man. Shout out Carter Crisp on that one too. And then Julia Hart. I thought this was excellent. So cool. The spear was beautiful from Copeland to Brody. A lot of good stuff. I can't get over how much I'm a fan of Willow Nightingale. She never gets old bell to bell to me. So Shad, I got to ask you, when do we get the Willow to the moon push?
I'm hoping this Willow to the moon push happens this coming weekend, Sunday at Dynasty. I thought this match was a good match in regards to progressing storylines for both matches leading in to Dynasty, more so the women's match. Edge, sorry, I'm gonna keep calling him Edge, and Brody King were definitely, throwing hands. It was a refreshing little dynamic in ring between them, outside the ring between them, because this is what I want. I want to see Edge go against some of these guys on AEW that are super talented, and I want it to like mean something. He's been tied with this, open Cope Oakland stuff and the whole, dynamic with him and Christian. We're past that now. I think him and Brody King telling the story with this 6-man match on Sunday is going to be good. And yeah, man, like the story of Willow getting taken out by Julia Hart, also with the underlying Mercedes is wondering who took her out last week. Uh, I think it all plays out pretty well. Julia Hart is doing a phenomenal job, but I think it is Willow's time this Sunday. Her taking the pin yesterday only kind of verified that to me. If Willow would have won yesterday, I would have kind of been a little concerned. But I think we're gonna get her opportunity this Sunday, and she's well deserving of it as well, man. She's a young superstar who's super talented, like you said, bell for bell, but also just the character. She's so fun. She has such a, like I always say it, like she can be there, Bianca Belair, as that lovable baby face that can kind of do no wrong. So I'm excited for her, and I really like the final portion of Mercedes coming out, you know, take trying to sworn off Julia getting out, but her also having that chair in hand and looking at Willow. Like this is a nice dynamic, and this is one thing I must say, and I might even talk about it in the next. You know what? I'll leave it for the next topic I got later on, because
No
there's
worries.
something about the women's division I got something to say about.
Because I'll say this too. When it comes to Willow Nightingale, I think she might be the only babyface in wrestling, men's or women's division, doesn't matter the division, tag team or singles competitor, that if you don't like Willow Nightingale, you might just have to take a look in the mirror. Like there's nothing to dislike about Willow Nightingale.
She's got a contagious personality. Like it's very bubbly, very friendly. She's got the fun music. Her aesthetic is super cool looking. And then she's just it's the thing is, it's one of those things, right? It's one of those big,
Right.
strong people that's like a gentle giant.
We've seen
Like
similar, but yeah, it comes across as so genuine. Like it factor, I know is a trope and a cliche or whatever, but like she has the it factor when it comes to that. It comes across as so legitimate. Like if you ran into her in public, she's just as nice as anybody walking the street, right? Like as nice as any person there is. And that's who she is, gentle giant. But she's also a competitor and she cares. And she's shown the depth character-wise in a way that's really hard for a babyface to do.
So I must say, it feels like the TBS women's division matters more than the AEW women's division.
Right.
Like title. The belt has better storylines, and I feel like the women in that title frame are booked prominently better storyline wise, and you're seeing that. And then adding Mercedes in the mix, you kind of just that's the biggest women's star that you have.
Yeah.
So it's become as equal at this point. Yeah.
Absolutely, the CEO. But Let's move on to our next topic. Let's talk about Chris Jericho and the Hookster face to face. As everyone knows, I am the world's #1 hookamaniac, the leader of the hookamaniacs. I eat my chips, say my prayers. It's the best. The Hookster last night looked as strong as anybody. I was hoping for a Tazplex as Taz was standing behind Jericho, but that is not what we got.
Taz made me so sad yesterday.
It made me sad. But son stepping up for father, and I loved it. I loved the Hookster. What did you think of the segment? I'm actually more excited for the match than I was before, Anthony.
Complete opposite. Honestly, I didn't like the segment because I thought it made Taz look like a wimp. I mean, this is the guy. Granted, I know he's older now, but Taz of old would not just let Jericho badmouth him. And Hook, as a son, just stood back and let it happen and didn't do anything. And even when he pushed Taz, he waited. Why? How is that realistic? If somebody put their hands on your father, you're pouncing immediately. You were not sitting back and waiting and then just going, leave the ring. Like, it was horrible. I don't know why. There was so much potential for this, but Jericho does what Jericho does best. Sucks the life out of the young talent, and I didn't get it. I have no interest in this. I didn't think the segment was done well.
Wow. That I did not expect. I will say I thought commentary did a good job of addressing the fact that
I'm going to be real with you, Clark.
Taz has a bad back and a bad knee. I thought commentary did a solid job there.
Which is fine, but why'd Hook wait? He literally pushes your father, and you stand there casually like,
I'll say this.
Realistic at all.
He needed to choke Jericho on.
Yes, he should have tackled him and been on top of him immediately. There's no excuse for that.
I think Hook was separating himself from his dad's
Clark,
legacy. There, he was like, "Look, I'm going to stand on business," and he did once he got there.
All right, let's reverse positions. You're in Hook's spot, Clark. You'd be on him before he even finished pushing.
I'd probably wait.
No, you wouldn't. I'd
let my pops take a couple shots first. Shout out to my dad. I love my dad, but I'd let him take a couple shots for sure. Actually, to be honest, that's a terrible example. Almost anybody else, that's a good example, but I'd let pops get it. I love my dad to death, but a couple forearms or whatever, like,
well, he'll be fine. The direction
honestly, I'd expect my pops to step up and do something. So I would be waiting. I'd be like, he'll be fine. You know what I mean? Like, he can handle himself. As far as I know,
this did not go well for you at all.
I'm just saying, like, in general, that's the way I look at it. But let's talk about, speaking of things that the way I look at it, Mariah May wearing Toni Storm's gear is one of my favorite things on AEW television. It's complete comedy to me. It's all time. Toni Storm's character. Oh, Sunset Boulevard. Let's go. Monster shout out. One of my favorite character work segments that I get to see every week in all of wrestling, AEW or WWE. It's outstanding. Deonna, way unfair criticism all week, all over the internet about Deonna and her bell-to-bell ability. I thought she looked awesome last night. Mariah May won and deserved it for sure. Well, she won the segment with the beatdown. She lost the match. Mariah May won, went over in my eyes the way she stood tall after beating down Deonna to end the segment after the match. She was robbed, obviously. Everyone knows I'm a Mariah May fan. Shotty, whatever. I'm going to ask you about the match. How good is this part of the whatever, dude? Talk about it.
I'm all bad, bro. You got me feeling bad. Man, I feel like I rave about Mariah May every week. I've been a fan of her since she touched down in Stardom. I think she's got a sense of like charisma and personality that is way above a lot of people on that women's division, and I think she has to be the person to get the title off of Toni Storm when Toni Storm is going to get rid of that title, right? Like, the story is so good between both of them. Their dynamic is so good. and they progressed the storylines for each competitor last night. I think there is going to be, some shenanigans in that women's match where Deonna is going to go full heel, which she needs to do. Her character as a babyface hasn't worked on AEW thus far. It is kind of been boring, to be honest with you. My criticisms of Deonna Purrazzo have never been her in-ring ability. If you're criticizing the in-ring ability like to a core, you're not the wisest person. She has looked rusty at times since debuting, but I thought last night they had a stellar match. And Deonna Belfort Bell is one of the best women's wrestlers on the planet. But it's something about her character that is not working as a babyface. It just comes off really boring. And I think her as a heel, her being that, having that kind of like royal, snotty nose personality where she thinks her itch don't stink and she's better. And it works when she's you know, shaking off people in the entrance. Like that's the virtuosa, and that needs to come into fruition. And I think her and Thunder Rosa as a feud without the women's title coming out after the pay-per-view is something I'm gonna be looking forward to. But I like that whole dynamic of Rosa coming out looking great. I loved her painting lipstick all over Tony Storm's face,
Yes.
and them kind of having that interaction at the end between her and Deonna. And yeah, I mean Mariah May, she lost the match. You said she won the war basically, but I said it last week, and I feel like I need to say it again. I don't think there is a better free agent signing in that women's division this past year thus far than Mariah May. In regards to like what you signed to what the return investment is right now, she skyrocketed every expectation I think people had for her. TK did a wonderful job throwing her in the fold with Tony Storm, and you're seeing the best character in AEW help a young star grow with that character together. Where you have yourself a main stage woman after their feud is done, and when she beats Tony Storm, like Mariah May is super young, she's got so much potential to the roof. It's gonna be something crazy, man. Like she is the like it's similar to that. It's similar to a Tony Storm signing in a way where it's someone that who's done so much great work, but you never saw her potential get maximized. She's getting her potential maximized, and I think she's someone that can even go past Tony Storm, go past a lot of these women on the roster because I think she's that damn good.
100%. I think Mariah May is as over as anybody. She's got Swerve Strickland vibes when it comes to the way she's elevated herself since she's been signed. I think without question, like as good as anyone in that division.
And like I told you on Saturday, the bridge to make this stardom stuff work is Mariah May. Like she is that bridge. Like the work she did in stardom before she came here is phenomenal. Like people are super excited about Julia coming to NXT. Her and Julia is what got people talking. They had a great match amongst each other that a lot of people ended up watching. And then you're seeing like Mina come in. We saw Azume come in. Like all these women have history tied to either feuding or being incorporated with Mariah May. She's the bridge that makes this work in this, partnership between Stardom and AEW.
Totally. I agree 100%. I think it's one of the best signings of the year, or I guess not calendar year, but right. Would it be?
It's been their most impact. I won't say it's their best signing this so far because they got a person like Mercedes Moné, who's a megastar, who hasn't had a chance to wrestle just yet. But she's been like the most impactful signing for AEW so far. She's been more impactful than the woman that she wrestled last night. Yeah, I'm just gonna be real with you.
Which is a big claim too, right? Like if you look at just straight merit, that's not something we probably would have said at the time.
No.
And that's the most impressive part about it, I think, when it comes to Mariah May for me. But let's talk about, excuse me, by the way there, but let's talk about the main event of last night. We had the Billy Goat himself, Will Ospreay, Claudio Castagnoli, Wrestling 101, basically. Styles make fights. I said it on yesterday's show. I'm like, look, as excited as I am for Danielson Ospreay, stylistically, this is as good as anything you could ask for. This is just going to be cool to see. And they totally delivered. I thought personally, I enjoyed a lot of it. Shenanigans after the fact with the Blackpool Combat Club and the Don Callis family. Weird. No Brian Danielson in the building. But even weirder, well, not weirder, but more surprising, we're looking like we're seeing some cracks in that Callis family after Ospreay basically condemned every single member that came out to defend him. This one was funky, but I did love the match itself and all of it. And it makes me more excited to see maybe there is some sort of story here with the Callis family. I got to ask you, Anthony, what do you like about this one? What do you not like?
I like Ospreay versus Claudio. Immediately, even on paper, you knew this was going to be the best match on the entire show. You knew that. Ospreay and Claudio are the type of talents that, honestly, if AEW went, they're going to do a best of series. I can pretty much guarantee that unless something catastrophic happens or really bad booking, they could be the 5 or 7 best matches of the year, depending upon how many matches they would go. So I knew that going in. They delivered. Claudio is that guy that, you could put him in there with anybody and he could pull out a decent match. And Ospreay's a once in a generation talent in that ring. The Don Callis family as a whole, they brought Ospreay in fighting each member, even though he was a part of the group. I didn't understand that logic. If they're going to break it up and Ospreay's going to fight with them, or you're going to give Ospreay a group and he's going to fight them, I don't know. I think you could be doing more with Ospreay than fighting Don Callis and his cast of characters, personally.
I hear that. I will say, though, I want the Don Callis family to succeed because I like Don Callis so much, and on commentary, he's just hilarious. Like, the guy gets me every time. He's funny as could be and talented as could be. So I do want them to succeed, but I do also hear where you're coming from about what is this exactly setting up for. I mean, if we end up with Mark Davis returning and Kyle Fletcher maybe flips, that'd be kind of a cool, you end up with some sort of trio situation. I don't know. There's a lot at stake there. You could see a lot of different options, but it is at this point, it feels like the Callis family has gotten a little bit flatlined, a little stale in some ways. I got to ask the Tuesday Night Delight, Shoddy, what do you think?
You and me had this conversation off air.
We did.
About the Callis family. They just don't. They're too much of misfits in a group, and it does not work. It has no chemistry. It's just a bunch of random guys that are talented thrown into a group, and there's like nothing that works upon it. Hobbs should not be in it. Kyle Fletcher. See, this is the thing. Callis, if he had it where it was like he was the manager for the Aussie Open, it could work, but I would rather see the Aussie Open as the United Kingdom with Will Ospreay, because that's the unit, and Will Ospreay is that good at talking, right? He's that phenomenal on the microphone where he can elevate his boys and it comes more natural. The only person I could see as a good pairing for Callis is Takeshita, because he's really good at kind of bigging up Takeshita as a character, because Doc Callis is really good at this, but he's operating on too much stuff, and there's that Jericho stench from that last pay-per-view that's still on them as well that they got to clean off. But that's neither here or there. The match last night, lights out, man. I mean, and I might have to take back what I said, because Ospreay probably is the best free agent that they've signed thus far.
Yeah.
But that's no disrespect to Mariah May, because she's right there with him. But I mean, this is what he's gonna give you, man. This is a guy who is that good in the ring, where he's gonna just go out there and put on banger after banger with matches, and that's the beauty of AEW's roster. They got guys who like to wrestle. TK says this is where the best wrestle. He got guys who can prove that they're some of the best at wrestling. And I am a big Claudio Castagnoli fan. Was a big Cesaro fan in WWE, and it hurts me because I feel like he has been lost in the shuffle since he's got there in ways. He got into the Combat Club. He had a good feud with Kingston, but he's never had an opportunity to be one of the top guys when he is talented enough to be one of the top guys. This is a guy who beat Seth Rollins at WrestleMania. This is a guy who had a world title feud with Roman Reigns as the tribal chief. You know, this is a guy who's won tag team gold and mid-card gold before. He's not short of doing and accomplishing main stage stuff. And I feel like he should be in the main stage picture. And going against one of these guys who is a main stage wrestler on AEW, the new signing in Will Ospreay, he reminded people, because it takes two to tango. Ospreay was on 10 last night, but so was Claudio Castagnoli. I thought that was one of his best showings I didn't seen in years. Like, and it made me very glad to see. I need to see him do something. If we break up the Blackpool Combat Club and let Claudio become a single star and get into the main event picture, you know, heel Claudio versus Swerve down the road or whatnot, let's do that, man. Let's get him in position to do something that he deserves to do, because he's way too talented not to be doing that. And yeah, back to the Callis family, let's get Ospreay out of it. He needs to be the single superstar that he is. You know, I must say I haven't got to talk about it yet. Also, I am beefing with him a little bit because you don't be going at the GOAT Hunter like that, but it's all good. You had a great match last night. You're forgiving, kid.
I hear you too, and we broke that one down before as well, like the Ospreay thing last week on this very show. And you know,
it was. I think his statements were trash. I'm gonna be real with you. I didn't get to talking with y'all, but I know y'all share a lot of the same sentiments as me. It was trash. You don't have a place to make those kind of statements, to make that personal type of statements about a man's wife.
Especially when it's not even directed at you.
Okay.
Like it was a vague statement. It wasn't even directed at you.
Here's the thing. Even if it did imply, if it implied to it and whatnot, that's fine. But like the digs at him and his wife and stuff. Come on, man.
We have the comment of the day though, guys.
What up?
Here from Coach 23, especially Shoddy, because of the conversation we had off air about the Callis family, and this got me so good. The Callis family reminds me of the League of Nations.
Oh my God.
That is not even that funny for the audience, but that popped me in shot for sure because it's the same combo that we had off. Yeah. That is
no, bro. It really is. That's the same joke I made. I can't make that. I'm not allowed to make that joke on air, but that's literally the same joke I made.
I'm like, I have to read it. It's the funniest. Thank you, Coach 23. You're the man.
They're the most inclusive.
By the way,
the most inclusive guy in the world, man.
Yeah, Coach. Did you turn on me? By the way, too, you've shouted out Anthony and Shad this whole show. I've got no shout out.
How did I get shouted out? You talked about the Jeff Hardy.
Coach said he agrees with you like twice.
You ain't saying nothing he agreed about yet.
Neither way, what? Yeah, man.
That made me part of it.
Well, we've got 12 minutes to go, so I've got time. Mm-hmm. It's Throwback Thursday time. Finally, Clark has come back for Throwback Thursday, the one we owe you from last week. I said we owed you one, and I delivered. We're bringing it back. Last week's Throwback topic: Diamond Dallas Page wins his first world title, and I got to toss it immediately to our resident historian, Anthony Ricciardi. What is good? Huge moment. Talk about a guy that gets into the industry late, trains really quickly. The Diamond Cutter, huge, iconic legacy in my Mount Rushmore from WCW. DDP is. Now he's doing yoga, but what a moment for wrestling, right, Anthony?
Yeah, DDP 25 years ago last week defied the odds, and at 43 years old, he won his first world title. This is a guy that got in the business in his mid-30s when everyone looked at him like, you're nuts. Like, this is a young man's game. And he did it anyway. It was Spring Stampede. It was a four-way. He beat Flair, Sting, and Hogan. So you're looking at that. That's about 30 world titles between them. And he came out as the champion. Yeah. So anybody that doubts LA Knight, who's 40, 41 now, it's possible he could win a world title. The precedent's been set by DDP. DDP is known for his work ethic. the diamond cutter is synonymous. There's no RKO if there's not a diamond cutter first coming out of nowhere, and an innovator in that sense. And he pretty much bestowed the diamond cutter to Randy. But DDP in a lot of ways is like Triple H, phenomenal in ring career, but what they did post career may be more important. Like you mentioned, Clark, he does the yoga, but he also helped save the lives of Jake the Snake and Scott Hall. When everyone else, how many rehabs did they go to? Now, granted, we did lose Scott Hall, but there's no question that DDP helped Scott live a few more years because Scott was not going to make it. Scott got his Hall of Fame induction while he was alive and not posthumously. Jake is thriving. And then all the other people that are not in the business that DDP has helped. And he continues to help in the business as a whole, too. So DDP had one of the greatest careers. And when you look at it, it was probably significantly shorter than people that have wrestled decades. But as a whole, he made an impact. Pun intended, he left a bang. He absolutely did. The fact that he actually won a lawsuit over the diamond cutter symbol, which is still one of the funniest things. And before I forget, the fact that WCW got sued over his theme song because Nirvana said they stole the Teen Spirit song, and WCW won because they said enough of the chords were different that they got away with it. Yeah. Maybe one of the wildest of DDP out of the ring stories.
It was basically a preview for the Ed Sheeran chords lawsuit that we would see years down the road. I'm sorry.
Can you picture that if that was used as evidence? I would like to defer to.
By the way, he got the diamond cutter symbol from Jay-Z. He
sued Jay-Z. They came to a settlement. He's like, no, this is mine.
Rockefeller did not win that case for him.
Yeah, there was a settlement. Yeah,
they had to pay him out.
Yeah.
Coach 23, by the way, I think might be like a few minutes behind on the show, and it's best. He goes, not really. And he goes, you still my boy, Cat, man. Love you too, Coach 23. Absolutely all day. Thank you for tuning in always. But Shad, dude, DDP, Anthony broke that down perfectly. Like, it's a huge moment. It's a huge WCW moment.
Mm-hmm.
Really interesting that they didn't use him in WWE in a way that was advantageous at all. And I think part of that was the Undertaker story was a good idea, but who wanted to root against DDP as far as the converted audience at that point?
The DDP said the one mistake he made, because remember, he took a payout. So he took, I don't know, 50 cents on the dollar, whatever it was, to get out of his Time Warner deal to go to WWE. He said the one mistake he made was that he should have insisted the program with The Rock because he wanted to do People's Champ versus People's Champ.
Would have been great.
He said that is the one mistake that he made. He should have insisted on it. Now, it may never happened because we never got Sting Undertaker either. So,
true.
But still.
That would have been fun as could be.
Yeah.
That is a great shout there too. And Coach 23 added, it was a well-deserved and overdue win for DDP. No question about it. Shad, obviously we all grew up in pretty much the same era. WCW, DDP getting the win. Your memories of DDP as world champion, and do you have him on your WCW Mount Rushmore?
Oh yeah, he's probably on there. I feel like he's a guy who doesn't get as much praise and his flowers as he should deserve. But I mean, I definitely have memories of this match. Exactly, like that was a huge moment. And talk about getting the win, man. He got a win against people that very well may be on that Mount Rushmore with him, arguably, right? So, well-deserved moment. I mean, DDP was such a, like, I don't know, man. I feel like if he would have been put into the era of wrestling now, or like maybe that 2012 to where we are now era, like he would have been like a super major star because he had such a like lit personality, man, and he was a very like a high ball of energy, man, and he was fun to root for. Very good worker. Like the Diamond Cutter is one of the cleanest moves out there, man, and he's got to be up there for the WCW Mount Rushmore, in my opinion, bro. Like he's one of those guys that I don't know, like you just kind of correlate WCW with him, like him, Sting, NWO, Goldberg, like these are guys that are kind of like tied to the hip of when you think of that era of WCW.
100%, dude. And like Coach 23 added over here in the comments, DDP is a legend in the wrestling biz and in life.
Man, he hit like a diamond cutter like a couple weeks ago.
It's the
best. At some like indie show. It looked pretty good too.
He doesn't do them indies. Like he said, I think he said there are two people that he would that he would get in the ring for: WWE and Cody. He's like, those are the two people I would take a bump for, but nobody else.
I mean, man, legitimately, one of my favorite text messages I've ever gotten was me and Anthony drove Kobe Galanzowski, our head of reviewing, to the airport at LAX. Dropped him off, and then we were stopping in the middle of basically, North Compton / Inglewood for Anthony to use the restroom. And Kobe texted me. I
had to go bad.
Yeah, he had to go really bad. And Kobe texted me and said, dude, you're never going to believe this. I'm like, what? And he goes, I just high-fived DDP in the airport. Like, let's go.
That's awesome.
It was all time.
Bro, he looks so good for his age doing that yoga, man. Like, he still look pretty young for how old he is.
Cool. Think about, like, even the exit, when he would exit the ring, that he would go through the crowd, the people, which, visually was a very cool thing. Like, there's two people that can claim the people's champ thing in wrestling, Rock and DDP.
I mean, think about the appearances on Jay Leno.
Karl
Malone as well for the Rodman angle, all of those things that he accomplished. My favorite DDP moment, classic. And we will for sure cover this on some throwback someday. But just briefly, I gotta say, when he dressed up as La Parka, I'll never forget.
Oh yeah,
because literally, I was so not super young, but young enough, elementary school, right? And I was watching it with my mom, and I'll never forget looking at my mom and going, that's DDP before the match finished. Like when he started hitting Macho Man, like I looked at my mom and like I figured it out, and it was such like one of those early memories where you just never forget. You're like, wait a minute, that's DDP. And it was, and they take the mask off and the blonde hair. Oh, it's just
I mean, you think about like him teasing the NWO that he was going to be a member, and that was Scott Hall's idea.
Oh, and the shirt.
Pull me back, and the diamond cutter. Now, Sting was the fighter of WCW. He would become an NWO member, but Wolfpack. DDP was never officially an NWO member. He
never
was
actually
WCW
joined
for life.
You put the T-shirt on for 1 second, and then shoved it right in their face.
I mean, you think about like his feuds with Macho Man, and we talked about it before. His match at Hollywood Havoc with Goldberg. I've said before, I will say it again. He was the guy that should have ended Goldberg's streak. He should have beat Goldberg that night at Hollywood.
100%. 100%. He would have been the one. I also think he was Goldberg's best bell-to-bell match of his whole career.
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
I think by far. It was the best bell-to-bell match.
Yep.
Although I will shout out the Lashley match with Goldberg was actually pretty dang impressive for a late career. It would have been interesting if somehow we mentally could have had them on the same page at the same time in both of their primes, because that was really well executed. But number one for me would be DDP Goldberg.
Yeah.
Okay, with that does bring us to the end of the show. Thank you, everybody who tuned in today for Throwback Thursday. On behalf of me, Shad, Anthony, if you haven't already liked and subscribed, please do. It means the world to us. Thank you, everybody who tunes in daily, weekly, all of it. Check us out tomorrow, different time, same place. That's noon Pacific, 3 in the East, 8 o'clock in the UK. That's going to be 9 a.m. in Hawaii. And I believe it's actually 4 a.m. in Manila, Coach 23. Correct me if I'm wrong. I apologize. But thank you so much. Everyone have an awesome Thursday. Hope you enjoyed it. And we'll see you guys. Well, I'll see you tomorrow, but next week for Throwback Thursday. Everyone have a good one.